Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to explore how we can overcome overthinking and rumination through mindfulness skills and meditation as well. This is going to be a 5-step process that you can apply, and like anything that I teach, that you practice, you're going to get better at it as you go. So the first time you do this, there very likely may be an improvement, but if you practice these skills over and over, there will absolutely be an improvement. So the first step is to be able to catch yourself when you're in this state of overthinking and rumination. And this is huge. One of the core ideas here is that we create a positive association with catching ourselves in this state. So often you may notice yourself overthinking and you may be like, I'm doing it again. There may be a frustration. But instead, that catch, that moment you realize you're overthinking, is a moment to celebrate, because that is the first step to changing this pattern. So if you create a negative association with this, your brain's going to catch it less often because your brain doesn't want to go into the negatives. You don't want to feel bad. But if you create a positive association with catching yourself, it's going to happen more and more often. So that's really the key here, is to create that positive association with noticing, and then you can set up things in your environment to help remind you. So setting up little reminders just to be mindful in general, or practicing meditation every day, having this intention to catch yourself more and more when you're in an unhelpful thought pattern. And just by doing it when you do remember and creating that positive association, it will happen more and more. So the next step is notice the underlying feeling. Notice what is happening in your body. Often our mind's going crazy and we have very little awareness of what's happening in the body and what the underlying or motivating feelings are. While thoughts definitely impact your feelings, it goes the other way as well, where if you're not feeling good for whatever reason, that will very likely spur on not so helpful thoughts. For example, when I'm feeling sick and feeling really awful, I'm a lot less optimistic. I'm a lot more negative about the world, versus after I go for a run or work out, I'm a lot more optimistic. I feel a lot better, a lot more positive about my life, about the future, all of those things. And as a result, I have more supportive thoughts. So the key here is that so long as things remain in our unconscious, so long as we're not aware of them, they have more power over us. So we're coming into our feelings, we're noticing what feelings are spurring on the thoughts or associated with the thoughts, not to try to stop them or end them, but to actually just welcome them and accept them. Our feelings are always trying to communicate something to us. They're sending a message. And if we avoid, if we don't listen, if we ignore what's happening in our body, our feelings are likely to just start yelling at us much louder. So when you come out of your mind and into your body, it can really help to calm the feelings there, to get past all the irritation and distress, and to notice what is underneath that and what is spurring on these feelings. So it's often a layer by layer thing. At first we notice some restlessness or distress, and as we acknowledge that and get curious and look underneath it, we may find something completely different. We may find sadness, we may find anger, we may find shame. And so as long as we ignore these things, they're going to keep causing us problems. So the next step is to deeply acknowledge these feelings, really explore them, be curious about them, and validate them. Let's say you're feeling anxious. You can say, I feel anxious, and you can kind of feel that anxiety. And then you can go a level deeper and try to feel what's in there. Maybe there's a sense of inadequacy. Then you can say, I feel inadequate, and really see what that brings up. That could very likely bring up sadness or shame, and you really want to practice being open to these feelings and these sensations. It's really about making ourselves feel safe to experience our feelings. So a lot of the practices on my channel are oriented around this. There's too many to link to right now, but you can have a browse around and see. And I also have my meditation for ADHD course that goes really deep into this, into acknowledging and being with the sensations in our body and learning to soothe them. So once we really acknowledge what we're feeling, we really bring it into awareness, we validate it, and we feel safe to be present with it. It's then that we want to really start to relax into it. So there are many strategies to soothing your nervous system, but the most straightforward one is probably the breath. As we slow our breath down intentionally, breathe nice deep into our belly, but with a nice steady ease and gentleness, this can really help to calm our nervous system down and to just help our whole body relax. Now, this isn't always the case. For some people, when they pay attention to the breath, it actually creates more anxiety, which is just a sign that there's a lot in there that's unprocessed. And so you want to come back to something a little more stabilizing. Again, I have a practice on my channel about working with distress that goes into strategies to deal with this if it's the case. But if you can find a soothing quality of breath, if paying attention to your breath does help you relax, then it's great. It's a great go-to. And so if the breath does work for you, it's also a great focus in your meditation. The more you practice being present with the breath, being open to it, feeling all its subtle qualities, the more available it's going to be to you to connect with and to help soothe you. So meditation is really about building familiarity with different parts of being or sensations by being present with our breath, regularly every day and also intentionally relaxing, it can be a wonderful anchor, kind of a safe place to go when we're feeling overwhelmed, distressed, or just having difficulty relaxing. So again, if the breath doesn't work for you, find another strategy that helps to be soothing. Another common one is bringing your awareness into your feet and just really feeling all the sensations happening in your feet. That can be really grounding for people and can also shift the focus away from all the distress in this part of the body to something that's a little more stable and grounded. Some people prefer to bring their awareness into their hands, and even those techniques can be distressing for some people, in which case try bringing your awareness outside into the space around you. You can put on some music and ground into that, really focusing on just the sounds. You can ground in the visual space by really focusing on shapes, colors, objects. There's a lot to explore here, but it's really about finding what works for you. But if you can get the breath to work for you, that's really great. Now, the other key here is that we are intentionally trying to relax, but we're not trying to repress or avoid any of the feelings that are present. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. They try to get rid of the uncomfortable feelings, the distress, whatever is happening, and it just creates more inner conflict. So we're always accepting what's happening. We're never trying to squash it. And this brings us into the last step, which is shift to a more supportive thinking and feeling pattern. And again, this is something that you have to figure out what works for you. But I will suggest compassion. Compassion is really amazing for so many reasons. It makes us happier, it makes things lighter, it helps to relax and soothe us. And there's a long history of people doing compassion meditations and that being super supportive for their focus, for their happiness, for all sorts of reasons. And this is another great meditation practice. In Buddhism, it's called metta, M-E-T-T-A. And just meditating while intentionally cultivating compassion is a really powerful practice. Your body and mind learn to go into that compassionate space more and more easily. And it becomes more and more accessible, and then it can permeate through your life. And it can really support you when things are getting hard and stressful. So in my meditation for ADHD course, I have a whole section on compassion and self-compassion, and it has actually 2 practices around barriers to self-compassion, around overcoming the barriers, because that's another key thing, is that we often have these feelings of inadequacy or feelings like we've done something wrong or bad or undeservingness. So looking at that, figuring that out can really help to open up that compassion a lot more. But again, compassion doesn't have to be your go-to thing here. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to find something that is going to be more supportive to you. Something that's going to make you feel better, that's going to be soothing, relaxing, that's going to replace that overthinking and rumination. We're not trying to suppress anything. We're just shifting our focus. So if you try to bring in compassion and then some sadness comes up or some restlessness or whatever, that's okay. You let that be there, but you don't make it the primary focus. Instead, you focus on the compassion or whatever else your supportive thought, feeling, pattern, practice is. So that's the formula. And I know some of these steps, especially the last 2, the compassion piece, and then this piece about finding a more supportive narrative, story, but also cultivating that feeling. These may take some work to get good at. Well, really all of these steps take some work to get good at. But I have some practices on my channel that are related to these. And I also plan to do a lot more. So if you're not subscribed, you can do so, keep tabs, and sign up for my newsletter, because I'm really trying to put a lot more work into that, trying to really make it of value. So if you want to keep tabs on the happenings, I promise I won't send it too often. I'll try to make it good, punchy, and to the point. Links down below for all that stuff, my ADHD course. The first module video is free, by the way, so you can check that out. Newsletter sign up, and thank you.